Welcome to this informational webinar on the FY22 EDA University Center Notice of Funding Opportunity that was just published on March 1st. My name is Bernadette Grafton. I'm EDA's University Center Program Coordinator, and I'm joined today by my colleagues in both our Seattle and our Atlanta regional office. We're so excited to be able to speak with you about this program today and the funding opportunity for both of these offices. In the webinar today, we're going to run through these agenda items on the slide, which align directly with the NOFO that's been published. If you haven't had a chance to take a look at it yet, I highly recommend you do so. There will be time at the end for Q&A, but in the meantime, feel free to type your questions into the Q&A box. And any questions that we aren't able to respond to throughout the presentation, we'll try to address in the end, depending on how much time we have left. The purpose of EDA's University Center program is to enable institutions of higher education and consortia of institutions of higher education to use university-based assets to build regional economic capacity to support innovation and high growth entrepreneurship. Our university centers collaborate with other EDA partners, providing expertise and technical assistance to develop, implement, and support regional strategies that result in job creation, a high skilled talent pool, and business expansion in the region's innovation clusters. Some of our university centers are focused on a specific sector or topic, while others can focus more broadly to support the needs in the region, as well as local economic development. The program establishes EDA University Centers to provide technical assistance, like I'd mentioned before, on one or more of the following program areas that are listed here on the screen. You can see that we're covering a kind of a broad swath of focus areas, which is one of the beauties of this program is that the University Center Economic Development Program at EDA, for those who aren't aware, really does allow universities to focus on the needs of their region. This is a demand-driven program. We want you to be able to tell us what those needs are and how your university can best support the economic development growth in the region. So sometimes that's focused on regional commercialization efforts, and other times it's high growth entrepreneurship. Sometimes it's strictly focused on business expansion, and other times it can be more research based or focusing on resiliency around climate. There are any number of program focus areas, but we have listed a few here. There's a few examples in the NOFO. So I would just encourage you to think through some of these as it might apply to your particular university and partners. The total University Center program allocation for this fiscal year, FY22, is $8.4 million. $2.4 million of this is specifically for the first year of the awards under this competition. This is in anticipation of our FY22 appropriation that we have not received yet. Hopefully we will soon, but it would also stand if we have an annual continuing resolution. These amounts are based on the FY21 Appropriations Act. This funding, the $8.4 million, is divided among the EDA's Atlanta and Seattle regional offices. Historically, our awards have been in the range of about $80,000 to $200,000 each per university center per year. And we do about 8 to 10 awards per year, depending on the regional needs and the number of states in each region. You'll see that can vary depending on regional focus areas and particular program goals. But we wanted to provide you with this just as a high-ranging framework from which you can work with. And obviously, like I said, all of this is in the NOFO, so I would encourage you to take that into consideration when you are building your application. I'm now going to turn it over to my colleague, Sharon Mativa.
Good afternoon. This is Sharon Mativa. I have been with EDA for about 10 years or so, working primarily on the non-construction efforts. and the University Center program falls under our purview. That said, this slide talks about the eligibility of applicants. And the NOFO has identified that accredited institutions of higher education, including community colleges and junior colleges, and as well as consortiums, are all eligible. And community colleges may include HBCUs, historically Black colleges, and MSIs, minority serving institutions. The NOFO has indicated the types of applicants. Next slide. This slide talks about the award period. In other words, the period of performance. So the upcoming program will span 5 years. In other words, from when the award has started, typically summertime, July 1st for 5 years of 2022 to June 30th of, I want to say 2026 or 2027, if my math is correct. It will include the 424, 424A, the budget narrative, and staffing plan should encompass a full 5 years of work and budgets and explanations. One caveat here, and it specifically talks about the initial funding period. EDA will provide the first, it's all about the full 5 years. However, the first year must have a match letter that says it's committed. So in other words, if you have, for example, if you have the full 500,000, let's say that's the award, you must match at least 50% of it. In other words, the first year should have at least 100,000 of match. Next slide, which delves a little bit further into the match requirements. So as mentioned earlier, or a moment ago, the match requirements should total at least 50%. If you'd like to add more funds, it's your choice. Including in the match can be in kind. And your in-kind contributions, that could span what? Personnel costs, most likely third-party in-kind, and does require evidence of third-party in-kind as well. But that's to be discussed as the application proceeds. The additional match requirements this is a must. In your match letter, it will say specifically these words: the matching share must be committed to the project, be available as needed, and not conditioned or encumbered in any way. Slide. And I'll turn this over to, I believe, Priscilla.
Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome to everyone. I'm Priscilla Kittles, the Administrative Director for EDA's Atlanta Regional Office and our 8 state regions. I am responsible for the post-award management for all of the construction grants that are awarded through our regional office. And that is for every single grant that we award where there's no dirt being moved, as the environmentalist likes to put it. That becomes a part of my team's portfolio, to include the revolving loan fund program, district planning grants, university centers, and other competitive non-construction grants. Today is partly a little bittersweet for me because I've been with EDA for a little over 20 years, soon to be 21, and I'm approaching the last 3 months of the current 5-year University Center competition. So it is bittersweet in the sense that I'm getting ready to bid farewell to my partners of soon to be 5 years, but it's sweet because we're now providing an opportunity for other university centers. I'm sure there'll be some returning, but this competition will provide an opportunity for new ideas, new scopes of work, and another group helping EDA move its economic development agenda forward. So with that being said, I'm a little bittersweet today, but the scope of work, I do want to share some points with you all. In my opinion, and what I've seen in this 5-year competition, when you start to put together your scope of works, there are 3 key resources or information that I think is going to help support you in putting together a very competitive application. And one is understanding what EDA's mission is. It's very, very important that you learn the organization. The University Center is just one program, but EDA, we're small, but we are very powerful, and our impact over the enterprise of EDA is very, very strong and getting stronger in the way of disaster recovery. So in speaking to EDA's mission, of course, it is to lead the federal economic development agenda by promoting innovation and competitiveness, preparing American regions for economic growth and success in the worldwide economy. So in addition to understanding our mission, you need to be clear about the EDA University Center Development Program and what the purpose of the University Center program is. And just in general, it's in place to enable institutions of higher education to establish and operate university centers specifically focused on using university assets to build regional economic ecosystems. And then thirdly, understanding the investment priorities. If you understand the investment priorities, and I refer to one of the main one as the 3 R's, and that is recovery and resilience, more specifically being able to respond to a pandemic, being able to recover from it, and then building a resiliency so that it would in no way have the same devastating impacts as it initially did. So the 3 R's are very, very important under the heading of investment priorities. Then we have critical infrastructure, construction projects, for example, broadband, energy, roads, water, and sewer. Third, then workforce development and manufacturing. Projects that support infrastructure for training centers and other projects that include infrastructure-related efforts. Then we have export and foreign direct investment. Primarily, but not limited to just infrastructure projects, perhaps building out a port facility. But an underlying focus of that would be returning jobs to our shores, bringing those jobs back from foreign countries back to the United States. And then last, but certainly not least, is the opportunity zones, planning and implementing projects that are physically located within those census tracts that have been designated as opportunity zones. So if you understand, while putting together your scope of work, EDA's mission, the purpose of the University Center program, and then looping that into EDA's investment priorities, I am certain that we will receive a very thorough and competitive application. So that's about all I have to say on my bittersweet day. At this point, I'm going to turn it back over, and then I'll chat with you a little bit later in the presentation.
Thank you, Priscilla. Now I want to turn it over to Ethan.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ethan Fogg. I'm with the Seattle Regional Office, and I've been with the EDA a whopping 3 months and 1 day, so fairly new here. So I'm going to go over the project narrative. First of all, with the project narrative, we would like it to be no more than 10 pages. I know when you get writing, you have a lot of stuff you have to put in there, but try and keep it to 10 pages. You want to identify the region, state, and program focus, the industry, identify the industry if it's applicable, create a nexus between the need of the region, use the outcomes and benefiting areas, including distressed communities, address the 3 pillars, applied research, dissemination of information, and technical assistance. You also want to cover how the project meets EDA's requirements, outline the capacity of the team, provide resumes, and describe university resources, scope of work metrics, outcomes, and timelines. These elements should be highlighted and clearly defined. Sustainability. Identify potential sources of committed funding, potential support, and funding strategies for sustaining the program. Partners and letters of support. Document project partners, government, local, educational, and private, and their roles in the project. Provide a letter of support and matching funds if applicable. So that covers the project narrative. Again, try and keep it to 10 pages. And for the single point of contact, you will need it if you're in California, Arizona, Nevada, Florida, Kentucky, or South Carolina. If you have questions about that or wonder what the single point of contact is about, you can always do a quick Google search and it should be available there through a government website. Organizational documents would include bylaws, certificates of good standing, and articles of incorporation. When you send the articles of incorporation, please also verify that they have not changed since the date that is registered on the articles of incorporation. Mm-hmm. And if applicable, we'll need indirect cost rate documentation. So other attachments, so these will need to be attached along with the application. So the applicant capacity and project management, budget narrative and staffing plan, project sustainability, resumes of key project and staff, matching share commitment letters, and 5 separate itemized budgets. For the 5 separate itemized budgets, it's 5 because it's a 5-year program. We want one for each year. And if you send, it's recommended when you send this in to us, if you send it as an Excel document rather than a PDF, it makes our lives a little easier, and it may just be easier for you too, since you don't have to convert that over into an Adobe PDF file. I believe that is all for me, so I'll turn it over.
Thank you so much. I am now going to turn it over to my colleague, Jackie.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Claxton. Like Ethan, I'm a new addition to the EDA family, and I support Bernadette Grafton at headquarters on the university centers. So today I just wanted to really just quickly go over the application review criteria, and the applicants will be scored along 3 main areas. The first is the project alignment with EDA's investment priorities, which you have just heard quite a bit about, and that will be weighted about 25%. The second is the capacity of the applicant to execute the scope of work, weighted at 35%. And third, the responsiveness of the application to the notice of funding opportunity. Once again, take some time to read that closely. It becomes your Bible in terms of responding, and that will be weighted at 40%. I'm just going to take a few moments to go through each of these criteria. If we look at the alignment with investment priorities, which Priscilla talked about at a high level, are some of those items, there's 7 priority investment areas for EDA. The applicant must demonstrate alignment with one or more of these investment priorities. It may not be necessary for your project to encompass them all, but certainly demonstrate alignment with at least one, if not more, of these investment priorities, which include equity, recovery and resilience, workforce development, manufacturing, technology-based economic development, environmentally sustainable development, as well as exports and foreign direct investment. I'm just going to probably just quickly highlight some of the ones that my colleagues may not have touched on in depth in the prior few minutes. When we look at equity, we are looking for projects that directly benefit traditionally underserved populations, such as women, Blacks, Latinos, Indigenous and Native Americans, Asian Americans, and Pacific Islanders. Or we can take a specific geographic view in terms of areas that have not achieved full economic prosperities, such as some of our rural areas, persistent poverty counties, and possibly or tribal land areas as well. Some someone touched briefly on recovery and resilience. More and more regions have had to address sort of like recovery from economic shocks, whether or not they are related to a particular industry going out of declining, such as in coal communities, or addressing natural disasters, which are becoming more frequent, such as hurricanes, floods, and fires, and now, of course, addressing COVID. In regards to workforce development, we will be looking for projects that support the educations and skills needed by the business community to advance economic development. And you've heard that theme over and over again in terms of job creation. And for manufacturing, projects that encourage not only job creation, but business expansion, upgrades in technology, along with capital improvements, and overall productivity improvements in the manufacturing sector. Under the fifth investment area, we would be looking for projects where technology truly drives that economic development area, whether or not the projects would be supporting entrepreneurs or helping a startup to commercialize a new technology. The ultimate goal here is to create those high-skilled and well-paying jobs. We're also looking to invest in projects that are environmentally sustainable so as not to further the climate crisis, and that would result in green products, green processes, green places, and green buildings. And finally, as Priscilla mentioned, working to develop projects that support the growth of US exports or to increase foreign direct investments on our soil. When we examine the applicant's capacity criteria, we will weigh 4 factors equally. First, that the applicant is able to drive that job creation and promote that private sector investment. Once again, that familiar theme coming through. Second, that the applicant demonstrates the feasibility of the project, that they are able to do the project. Third, that the applicant describes the sustainability and the durability of the results of the project beyond the project period. And fourth, the applicant demonstrates the organizational capacity to successfully implement the project. And then finally, in regards to the last criteria, responsiveness to program objectives. Applicants must show a real understanding of EDA program objectives and address those objectives in their application narrative. And a few successful areas would be that the applications serve a specific, well-defined geographic area and benefit the distressed communities. They are providing technical assistance or applied research or disseminating information that truly fosters an economic ecosystems of areas, as well as contribute to the economic development body of knowledge. Once again, we're looking for projects that are going to drive economic development in regions. Importantly, leverage other university assets. As you very well know, your institutions have a lot of assets. How do you leverage those? Engage EDA stakeholders and partners who we've been working with for some time, economic development districts or Indian tribes and other regional development organizations. And certainly we want to be able to measure our activities and outcomes to basically be able to articulate the success of those programs. And once again, having a plan for sustaining success beyond the period of performance. So that's a quick overview of our criteria. A lot of this can be found in our NOFO as well, and I will turn it back over to Priscilla. Thank you so much.
Okay, I hope everyone can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Documenting partnerships. It is, of course, key because at the base of EDA's economic development mission, it is creating collaboration. We fund multiple entities through our grant programs. And it is all about making sure that every county, every city, every town, every census tract is being looked at. And if we are in a position to provide any sort of grant assistance, that we're able to deliver that to that community. So on this particular slide, documenting your partnerships, as you all may aware, there are multiple University Center partners. Even outside of the university arena, there are just multiple economic development partners and practitioners located in each of our states across these two regions. And for a few of them, of course, you have our districts, the economic development districts, which is basically a group of counties that have organized themselves. They apply to EDA for district status, and along with that, one of the basic tools upon which their designation as an EDA district is based upon is their comprehensive economic development strategy. And we commonly refer to that as the CEDS. And what that is, it's just basically a plan or a roadmap on how each of the group of counties that have organized themselves, they applied for districtship, EDA granted that, and we fund them a certain amount of money every 3 years to develop that roadmap and that plan and what those economic development pillars are going to be in a particular area. So just looking at this chart right here, you have the districts, you have state offices, you have other federal agencies, cities, counties, nonprofits, business and industry associations, and of course other economic development organizations. But in addition to that, EDA wants to make sure that the university centers are aligned with our Department of Commerce strategic plan with a focus on advancing STEM skills and capabilities. We're looking for applications that will benefit distressed communities by linking these communities to larger, more vibrant regional economies, to include the rural and urban linkages. We're looking for an application that will present a clear plan for collaboration. We're looking for an application that creates synergies within EDA's Public Works Economic Adjustment Assistance. Again, some of our grants, particularly to the districts, we do have grants that are considered non-competitive, but we have a whole portfolio of competitive grants, and those are also entities that you can link with and to come up with a scope of work that you have these partners out in your particular region. And then last but not least, of course, you need to tailor that application, through your application, tailor your services to the region's needs. So just be as specific and as direct and on point as to how you're going to address any challenges out in your particular community. And then become familiar with the term CEDS, Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. If you do not know what that is, or you have not read the district's comprehensive economic development strategy that covers your region, then I strongly recommend that you do that, because in that CEDS, you are going to find out exactly what the district is planning for your community, whether it's workforce development, whether it's disaster recovery, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's broadband, whatever it is, that's going to empower you to find your niche. What is unique about my application, and how does it connect or link to the district's comprehensive economic development strategy for my area? Next, at this point, I need to pass it back, and I will chat again a little bit more as we get through this.
Thank you, Priscilla. On to Sharon.
Well, the next slide talks about review and selection processes. This is Sharon, once again, from SRO. There are 6 key elements here, and one particularly requirement, which we'll get to that in a couple of seconds. Then published NOFO. We're going to use that specifically step by step, the receipt of the application, which is April 29th, 2022 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. In other words, back in DC. Technical review. This means the completeness of your application. The IRC is a group of folks who will review this independently of your project officer, which would probably be me in the cases maybe from the Pacific region. the grants office's decision. And then lastly, when the awards are announced. All of these 6 components will be necessary to provide or develop the award. Once again, the applications are due via grants.gov, April 29th, 2022, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I believe Priscilla mentioned earlier the difference, and I'm pretty sure she did, but I'm not remembering. The authorized representative must log in and must sign this document to be credible. Next slide. Post-approval requirements. This is really key to the grant recipients program. In other words, University Center who has been approved, who's accepted the award, who's going to promote and develop, implement their program. So within 3 years, EDA needs to assess. In other words, assessing means, how are you doing? Is your program effective? Is it meeting the stated scope of work? Is it meeting the stated mission? One of the other key components of the post-approval requirement is networking. Are you partnering with other university centers? Are you partnering with other organizations? It tells you, not just you and your partners, is not just are you on the right track, but is it meeting what your program is supposed to meet? So we do provide the CFR, which has the contract requirements. However, there are also additional reporting, which is progress reporting and financial reporting, but you do not confuse those two with the periodic 3-year performance or midpoint show of what you're doing. It could be individually based, or it could be in a group setting. And there's a key part here which says the goal is to access UC's contribution to providing technical assistance, conducting applied research, meeting program performance objectives, and disseminating project outcomes in accordance with the scope of work, which I just reiterated earlier. Lastly, if it's held somewhere other than you're in your own state, you need to have a budget for this. So travel may be included or not. This past year, we were able to facilitate via, I think, Zoom, Bernadette, but just because of the travel restraints. However, in 3 years that may go away. We'll see. We don't know. But the opportunity to travel and meet your partners or meet your networked individuals, that is an option. And I believe I'm turning this over to Priscilla again.
Okay, thank you for that. Past competitions, and I guess I must be one of the senior people on the phone, but the 2017 University Center competition statistics, Atlanta received 26 applications and we awarded 13. The 13 accounts for full coverage of every county, town, city within our 8-state region. And that is why, to include our HBCUs and all of our other universities, some of the states have more than one university center, because my regional director wanted to ensure that we had full university support throughout all of our 8 states. So for Atlanta, we had 26 applications, we awarded 13. Seattle received 14 and they awarded 9. But if you look at the numbers and you do the math, each region awarded well in excess of more than $500,000 to each university center during their 5-year period, which will end June 30th of this year. And what I want to do at this point is to just put on my mommy hat and talk a little bit about the university centers and to also shed some light on the various and vast array of scopes of work that we have seen over the past almost 5 years. I've had one university center that I would say the concept or the scope was concept to market. And by that, I mean assisting entrepreneurs and coaching them and counseling them and providing all sorts of technical assistance, whereas they were able to move from the point of kids' lemonade stands in downtown. They moved to Sesame Street and creating a device, which is a little kind of glow in the dark, looks like a little ice cube, and they put it in liquid and it glows. Well, I believe it worked for glasses. If your glass is empty and the bartenders see that the light is glowing, you know it's time to refill. But they have taken that from a lemonade stand in downtown, which is one of the entrepreneurs they were working with, young entrepreneurs, and moving all the way to Sesame Street and coming up with a device that assists children with autism. Now that is just amazing. So that was one of the university centers. I have another one whose focus, and actually this was one of my HBCUs, their focus was financial support to underserved communities. So that took a lot of networking, took a lot of calling back, took a lot of just hitting the pavement in the streets, figuring out what is going on in our area, and we've got to come up with resources to assist these underserved communities with financial support. And then I have another university center. Their focus was ecosystem support. And what I really liked about this particular university center is the depth and detail of collaboration that they went to. They have collaborated with, I think, every corner of their state. And they've also reached outside of the United States. So that was another one, just working on ecosystems. And then I have another that was one of the favorites of mine. They started with a scope of lowering healthcare costs. And they have now migrated from that to a STEM lesson kit and also focusing more on collaborating with the districts. And then last but certainly not least, I had another university center, and their focus was empowering women entrepreneurs. And that was the brand and the scope for several years, and becoming a little more sensitive to our world and what's going on, they rebranded their program and named their program Entrepreneurial Diversity in Information Technology. So that's just a little picture of the vast array of scopes of work that we have seen with our university centers. So there's no cookie cutter formula that we can give you to make yours competitive. You have really got to look at what resources you have, where those resources are, and then that's what you need to put together, connect with your district, the comprehensive economic development strategy, because it may be a surprise as to how much of a niche you already have once you learn that information. And in addition to the funding that we have given our university centers over the soon to be 5 years, when the pandemic hit, we looped all of our university centers in and awarded them about $300,000 each to develop a response, resiliency, and recovery plan for the university center program. So that's just how serious EDA takes our university centers. And I hope just listening to those brief recaps of some of the scopes of our existing university centers will help to guide you better in what you should be preparing to submit to EDA that's going to land you with a very competitive application. Next slide. Reminders and tips. For this page here, please know that you read everything on the slide. You need to read the notice of funding opportunity to make sure that you have prepared and have uploaded every single thing that we have asked for in your application. Remember, this is a competition, and the word compete really means compete, and it's a very, very competitive environment that we're living in right now. So if you're missing something, or we have to take time to come back to you to get additional information, well, that's not exactly fair to the other people that did upload everything that we asked for. So please take the time to read the notice of funding opportunity and make sure that you understand everything that's there. If there's something that you don't understand, by all means, send us an email. The project narrative needs to be no more than 10 pages. Anything beyond 10 pages is not going to be read. I strongly discourage folks from including links in their application because that adds more pages. And where it's unfair, those are not the rules of the competition. It should be 10 pages. If you want to put information in there, that's fine. But to include links, that's not fair to the other university centers that are competing. Of course, the indirect cost, 20% of the total project, no exceptions. Any program income that you earn must be looped back into the fund, and you have to obligate and expend those funds before the award period ends. Make sure you have your grants.gov registration up to date. Make sure that your SAM registration is current because we're not authorized to disperse federal dollars if the grantee does not have their SAM registration current. And make sure that whatever name you put on the SF424, which is the basic application, that is the name under which your SAM's registration is shown, because that creates issues when your application goes for legal review to the attorneys. That's a big issue. We cannot allocate funds to an entity because we're not sure what the name is. And to put it in the terms of our lawyers, if for any reason we have to go to court, we've made a grant to someone that doesn't even have a legal name. So it's very critical that you make sure that whatever name is on your SAM registration is the name that you are transferring over to the 424, and that your DUNS and your TIN are exact and correct. I want to speak a little bit about the terms authorized organizational representative and authorized representative. The authorized organizational representative is, of course, that person that has the grants.gov account. He or she goes in, uploads the application, press the submit button, it comes into my inbox, and we start the process. The authorized representative, however, is a totally different person. The authorized representative is the person that is legally authorized to enter into an agreement between the federal government and the institution. So two different entities, authorized organization rep and the authorized representative of the organization that is delegated and documented in writing as the legal entity that can actually sign off and accept that award. Next slide. Tools and resources. Please visit our website, www.eda.gov. Put in the search University Center, will take you to this page, one of these pages that we're looking at now, and there's a lot of information there. You can read about the existing university centers. You can read about all the tools, the best practices. There's a lot of information there. For those of you that just heard the term SEDS today, I encourage you to go to the Stats America website. And we're working with Atlanta districts to get to 100%. But the Stats America website has a SEDS library, and you should be able to go into that library and click on your district, and the district, you can just put in EDA Economic Development Districts, and the list should come up. Find the one that covers your county or your city or town or whatever it might be, and then you can go in there and read and see what is the plan for our area. Where is there an opening? Where is there an opportunity? So please, Stats America, and just search for the SEDS library to get there. We also have a position within EDA that's called the Economic Development Integrator, and that person, their role is to collaborate and integrate and just kind of figure out where the federal dollars are in EDA or outside of EDA. So that person can certainly serve as a wealth of knowledge or another resource for our University Center partners. At this time, I'd just like to say to all the applicants that we look forward to starting a new round, July 1. We hope to have some return applicants come back, but again, it's a competition, so there's nothing guaranteed. It just depends on where your application lands in the scoring when we do the reviews. But those that are coming back to the state of South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida, and Tennessee, Jolene looks forward to welcoming you back. Those that are coming back for Georgia, Alabama, Kentucky, and Mississippi, Cheryl Jackson looks forward to welcoming you all back. So with that, Bernadette, I'm still on a bittersweet note today. I wish I could keep them all, and we just keep adding them on, but of course we don't have enough money to do that. So I'm very proud and very pleased about the current program, and certainly look forward to bringing a wealth of knowledge, being able to get our roundtables together, having people come in and meet in person. We had our second one scheduled when the pandemic hit, and we just didn't get an opportunity to have that. But I do remember the first one that we did, it was just great. We had some returning university centers come in, speak directly to you about best practices, listen to what your challenges were, and actually laid out a plan to help our university centers. So that's what EDA is about. And again, I welcome the new applications coming in, and we look forward to kicking off another 5 years. Bernadette?
Thank you, Priscilla, and thank you to all the other presenters today. I believe I've answered, or we have all answered, the questions that have come in so far. This is the end of our official presentation. I know we've got a couple of minutes left. So if there are any remaining questions that come in through the chat, happy to answer those. There is one question that's outstanding regarding program income that I'm wondering if either or Priscilla or Sharon or anybody else is able to answer. It's really just generally speaking, can you help us understand program income and how that might work?
Well, my experience of program income is that one of the university centers, I'm trying to think, they had, and I don't remember exactly what the activity was, but they were like charging a little fee for folks to participate or to attend it. So they had actually earned monies for sponsoring and putting on that event. And of course, that was program income. So they had to report it. It had to be documented on the financial report, and they had to have that money expended by the time the grant ended. So there are various ways that university centers, very creative ways of how something might happen and you're earning money on it, then you certainly have to report that money. And I'm not sure if anyone else wants to speak to that.
This is Sharon. I'll add a couple of key things to what Priscilla said. Program income, if you're going to use it, should be included in the application. That way it can be evaluated to ensure that it is applicable to what you're going to do and stated. So when you earn that money, when you're using it, as Priscilla mentioned, you will also report that on your 425 and calculate it so that they're applicable CFRs that define how the actual federal award and match is adjusted using your program income. But it's a case-by-case basis.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I know there have been a lot of questions about, can you have a copy of this presentation? Yes, we are recording this, and the recording as well as the slides will be up on our website, hopefully within the week. So please check back frequently. It's our University Center website that I believe was noted, yes, right here, eda.gov/programs/university centers, or you can just find it in the drop down under programs on our website. We will absolutely have that available for you.
And Bernadette, if I may add just one more remark, and that is we are still working 100% remotely from home, as most people probably can tell. So the best way to communicate with us at this point is via email. That way we can manage it. We have email on our mobile devices, and that just provides a better, if you call the office, there's no one there. So the best way to communicate with me and my team right now is via email. And that's pkittles@eda.gov.
Thank you. And we have a couple of questions on indirect costs and if they can be used as match, if waived indirect costs can be included as match, how you might find matching funds. I don't know if anybody on our presentation has any thoughts on those.
Well, Bernadette, all I can say to the subject of matching funds, again, we'd have to look at each situation. But in general, matching funds, the lawyers are going to be looking for a letter that says the funds are available and committed and unencumbered. So I don't know a way to get around that.
Right.
You've got to have that signed match commitment letter, and you know, they look for two words: unencumbered and available.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. Anything else? I know we're coming up on time here. I really appreciate everyone's attention and participation today. I know for some of you, this is an entirely new program. For others, you are veterans at this point. We nevertheless really appreciate your interest in it, and we're hopeful that we'll get some great applications to review this year. And just please feel free to reach out. I've still got the points of contact up on the screen. If you have any questions, reach out to your appropriate regional point of contact, and be on the lookout for the recording shared within the week. Thank you, everyone.